What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash podcast. Today, I have on the co-founder and CTO, André Francisco, to talk about UpLink, a decentralized telco network that they are building, what that actually means. We're also going to talk about DeWi, decentralized telecoms, and go into some detail on, what this means for the space and what they are building. So, Andre, welcome to the show, man. It's a pleasure to have you here and excited to chat with you more about what you guys are doing with UpLink. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Before we, dive into some of the details and really get into it, I'm sure people would be curious, who you are exactly, what your backstory is a little bit, to kind of give them a frame of reference. So what's your story?
I started coding early. I started studying computer science. I was age 11. And during that part of my life, I already started working on a few projects, but it was mostly like indie projects, like a few games here and there, nothing much, nothing serious, nothing that would be noteworthy in a way. Uh, it was later, perhaps when I got to college, I started working with actual enterprise projects, and that gave me like a different type of approach to those projects because they were much more serious in many ways. That there was tangible businesses that they were supposed to support. Um, then this would be important later because once I got to college, I started doing working on research on some aspects, and I worked on computer graphics. I worked a little bit in AI, but that's pre-GPT era, so totally different landscape of what you see today in terms of AI. I worked in terms of natural and computer language processing and so on. So basically compilers and that kind of thing. But at some point I realized that wasn't really for me. I didn't see like my work having any sort of impact in the world, and I wanted that. So at some point I decided to drop out of college because I understood that's not the type of research that I wanted, and eventually ended up starting working more on businesses, and that's when we found the company. Initially, it was something entirely different already in the connectivity space, but it was for me the next step after doing this research in college, and I wanted to do something more significant. So as a company in the wireless communication businesses, we're more of this type of Web2 company, and for the type of connectivity that we were creating, basically users had to share or were enabled to share connectivity from their devices. That was sort of the main point for the whole thing. But ultimately, this started to raise questions like, okay, if I have connectivity on my device, why would I share? Like, what's the motivation? What's the rationale that enables me to share my connectivity with other people, enable businesses, and that kind of thing? So I think that at some point it became obvious to us that Web3 would work well as an incentive mechanism for these type of networks, and we just started from that because it made sense that if people are going to be involved in sharing connectivity and enabling connectivity for other people, that they are incentivized to do so. So Web3 seemed to fit like a glove, and that's when we had this kind of shift from Web 2 to Web 3 that was transformative for the company overall. We rebranded as UpLink, and basically we already had a lot that we were bringing from the Web 2 space, particularly like businesses that we were already working on, and so on, basically to enable the project overall, right?
And then before we, jump into Uplink itself, it probably would help to premise it with, the question, what is, DeWi? I know it's something that's gotten much more popular over the last couple of years. It's something that I think, decentralization and Web3 can really play a large role in, and I think it'll have a very bright future. But obviously, it's very expansive and it's going to continue to grow and expand in different directions. So for you guys, for Uplink, what does DeWi mean? What can it do? And this idea of decentralized telco networks. Maybe that's a good place to start to premise Uplink.
Right, absolutely. Because I think what's important to understand about Web3, DePIN in particularly, and DeWi is basically the needs, where the need stems from, and what's happening in the telecommunication space that is sort of motivating this whole transformation. And if you think about it, it's not just that we have more devices being connected than ever. It's that the scale at which it's happening, it's unprecedented in many levels. So this is, of course, creates a serious challenge in the technical aspect on how we're going to connect such a massive amount of devices. We're not talking like pushing the boundaries a little bit. We're talking about exponential growth, pushing the boundaries by a lot. So the paradigms that we saw so far in terms of how you're going to connect devices in whatever space it is, it could be IoT, it could be in the consumer market, and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. It's like unprecedented on many levels, and particularly with technologies like 5G that are sort of addressing these types of challenges in this space. They're bringing a lot of technologies that are hard to deploy, that are hard to maintain, and that have as well a measurable scale in many aspects. So for this creates a type of challenge, particularly for telcos, in which you say, okay, there's a certain promise regarding 5G in terms of latency, in terms of throughput, data plans, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, how do you enable that? Because in order to do something at this massive scale to connect devices, you also need massive infrastructure. And that's where DeWi plays a very strong card in this space, because it's becoming more and more unfeasible for the telcos to support all of these infrastructure. We're talking like if you're going to deliver the type of gigabit connectivity that 5G promises and the ultra low latency that they're supposed to deliver. I mean, it's crazy expensive for telcos to do this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the way is really to put the problem or solution, so to say, in the hands of the community. Because if the telcos cannot address such a massive type of scale, then it's really not going to function for the telcos. And 5G cannot actually deliver its promise. So what's happening here, is DeWi is not a nice to have in this space. It's much more than that. It came to a point where it became a necessity. If without DeWi, there's just no way that we can collectively deliver on the promise of 5G and the new connectivity landscape that is coming. And it's true because 5G is bringing a lot of innovations to the space, because if you know, there's like with each generation that comes, there's a different type of innovation that is brought. For example, when 1G came about, it introduced cellular networks. 2G brought SIM cards, 3G data plans and the datacom. 4G, for example, converged the datacom and telecom spaces. You all of a sudden had only all IP networks basically could communicate in only IP basis, which was unprecedented at that time, And if you kind of add up all of these transformations that we saw across each generation, 5G is challenging them all almost, in one or another way. And in several aspects. For example, I can tell you about, I think it's not just one of my favorites, I think it's one of everybody's favorites in 5G, which is network slicing. This is basically a feature that enables telcos or the operators to create virtual networks on top of the common infrastructure. So, for example, think of it like a cloud for telcos, in that kind of sense. And the idea here is Not only does it enable very specific use cases, which never existed before. For example, if you wanted to connect IoT using 4G, you just connect to a normal cellular network, and that would be it. The resource allocation would be dedicated for a specific network, but you're basically sharing infrastructure with pretty much everyone else that is using the same cellular architecture and that is connecting in more or less the same way that you are. 5G changes that. 5G says, okay, no, we're going to create networks that are tailor-made for every specific use case that we came to face. This is the most future-proof thing that you can possibly have, and it's transformative because it enables a lot of options. On the moment that you can virtualize these types of networks, it opens revenue streams for telcos, it opens opportunities for the private sector, and it enables things like DeWi to create custom network configurations and basically enable a lot of community-driven projects to operate on existing infrastructure. And that also enables, for example, the expansion of existing infrastructure. And I mean, there are many other things. Let me give you an example that I really like in the 5G space, which is called fixed wireless access, FWA. Basically, the idea here is FWA is not new. It existed before, but what's happening with 5G is it comes right out of the standard, and it's also being taken into consideration at an unprecedented level, right? And the idea of FWA is that basically you can connect, let's say, an antenna or a transceiver from a building of sorts to a transceiver that is giving coverage to a given cell, to a given area. But you can do that at gigabit speed, which changes a lot of things because all of a sudden you have wireless that is coming to challenge even fiber, which is, again, absolutely unprecedented. Like, and up until now, if you wanted something in the lines of, for example, really good, really fast, really stable connectivity, for example, in your home, your business, I mean, it's fiber. There's no way around it. Fiber was the best. It's triumphed for decades. But I mean, that reign is coming to an end because technologies like 5G, FWA are challenging those models. And all of a sudden, you can have gigabit connectivity in your home that is coming from a transceiver, that is coming from a tower nearby, that is coming wirelessly into the building. And again, this is unprecedented. But once again, how do the telcos go and equip every single home, every single building, every single shopping mall, every single parking lot, with this type of connectivity? Because I mean, yeah, it's great. Now you can have 5G on level -4 of your favorite shopping mall, but who's going there to and set it all up? Because big, dense population centers should be much more favored in that aspect. But if you start going even a little bit away from the dense populational centers to the suburbs, rural areas, that kind of thing, I mean, that's not going to happen. And you absolutely cannot have this type of connectivity, this type of options in such a massive scale, so generally speaking, I mean, all of these to conclude basically what I said before, it's like, this is not just a nice to have. It's without DeWi, without putting this infrastructure in the hands of the community, without the type of decentralization projects like what Uplink is doing, in which we say, you know what, we're going to give you the means for you to deploy and manage your own infrastructure and be a part of a larger network. Like the 5G promise is just not possible.
So what I'm getting is that 5G and DeWi actually complement each other very well. Having DeWi is going to make 5G a lot more feasible for a lot of people.
Yes. Again, because even more than that, it's an imperative. I really want to stress that out. It's like, without it, there's no way. Without DeWi, there's no way that 5G delivers on everything that it promised.
To follow up on DeWi, what are you guys doing at Uplink to make this work? Or how does Uplink work? And then how do you guys incentivize users?
The whole idea is that we create necessary mechanisms, necessary incentives to enable the community to operate on its own. So uh, I think this is precisely what's challenging the traditional Web2 model, in which a company with try to come up with really great technology that would challenge traditional paradigms, that would try to I don't know, make changes in any aspect. But I think we're past the point where the problems in connectivity can be addressed by single individuals or even single entities, and the idea here is, we're not going to be the ones that challenge the actual connectivity paradigms. We're going to be the ones that enable the entire community to do so. And this is one of the things that I see a little bit different in the space, which is that instead of us being technology providers trying to solve these problems on our own, we just want to enable the community to do so, and we want to give them the right economic incentives to push forward and continue to push forward on pretty much anything that should be addressed in the connectivity space. So the bottom line is we don't really see ourselves as this type of connectivity technical providers that address real deep problems. We do that on occasion, and we even work with some Fortune 500 companies in projects on our own. But we're not trying to challenge the standards. That's what I mean, and basically what we believe in is that the community, given the proper incentives, given enough transparency and trustless mechanisms in which they can basically take ownership of the ecosystem, is really the way forward in this space.
Is it active now? Like, can you join Uplink today? Can you participate in it today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been working with a few Fortune 500 companies for a few years. That's one of the projects, or some of the projects that we've been working on. So it's a lot. There's a lot of activity behind the scenes, but I mean, unfortunately, we're still under a few NDAs that I can't really disclose a lot of information. But I can say that we have pretty much prepared a white paper for you guys, and it's coming soon. It's not going to take that much longer, and it's going to contain a lot of information about this kind of stuff and what we've been working on in the past. So, but for now, these NDAs are kind of a blocker
Got it.
in that way, right? We do have like a public partnership that we just closed more or less recently with the WBA, Wireless Broadband Alliance, which basically means that for people in our community, access to over 3 million Wi-Fi hotspots all around the world for free. And there's basically a lot more to explore in that domain. And above all, I would like to mention the coverage map that we have, where people can already register their routers, their Wi-Fi gateways, in order to earn points, which will later be useful on the network in many different ways, right? But generally speaking, do visit in Uplink XYZ the coverage map, where you can see where we actually have coverage over Wi-Fi, and how to get access to those access points, and register your own in order to earn points, and so on and so forth. And yeah, for now, that's more or less it, at least what I can disclose.
I was going to ask about the routers as well, because I saw the pre-registration for them. Is that, part of how you guys build out the network? Do you allow people to connect their routers or register their routers in a way that participates in the network, or do users have to use separate nodes or different type of infrastructure, or what's the role, I guess, for routers?
No, that's exactly it. I mean, any router more or less any router can be registered. I mean, let's say a recent router. We're not going back to the 90s, but any router, Wi-Fi router that you have at home, you can register and start earning points immediately. And this is sort of the initial onboarding that we're giving to the community in order to start actively participating in the project and start earning rewards early on.
Where can they go to register? Just a website, or is there a specific place they should, go check out?
In terms of channels, I would recommend Uplink XYZ on our website and our Discord channel, which you can also get access there. There'll be people there to answer as many questions as you can possibly have in terms of onboarding, how to set up, how to do things, how to register, and so on and so forth. No worries there.
Okay. And then what does your guys' roadmap kind of look like, going into the rest of this year, into 2025, that you can disclose and talk about, that you think users would also be very excited to hear in regards to your guys' network?
Well, 2024 is going to be a lot about this point system that we're developing, coverage map, and I think in some ways a lot of what we're doing on the background is still going to be, I mean, like I said, a little bit under NDAs, that kind of thing. But 2025 is going to be like all out. That's we're talking token launch, TG. Coverage map, search map. We're talking about like referral systems. We will have an app that is going to enable you to not only manage all of your rewards, but also your infrastructure, your connectivity plans, and so on and so forth. We're going to launch a dual token economy that is going to enable people to capitalize on investment that they make in terms of gateways, infrastructure, and so on, but also in order to manage their own spendings in terms of connectivity and how to consume connectivity overall, data plans. I mean, there's a lot. Before that, even the white paper should be coming out with very detailed information on all of this and basically anything you want to know. You will not, I can tell you will not have to wait that much longer to have access to them.
Then in terms of the coverage maps, you mentioned that as well. Is that, something that's completely global, anywhere you are in the world, or is it certain regions at the moment?
No, you can register the routers anywhere in the world. And basically, because I'm saying that for now it's Wi-Fi. We're just kind of focusing on Wi-Fi, but the whole point, the whole idea, and to explain to you a little bit as well as to why Wi-Fi and what's going on with that use case and in that space, it's basically the same thing all over again in terms of scale. Like all of these 5G infrastructure that is coming needs to connect a massive amount of devices, right? And the telcos, this is going to be a problem for telcos for many reasons that I already mentioned. One of them is that they actually get congested. Like there's just too many devices for the type of infrastructure that we actually can deploy. One thing is that you can actually use Wi-Fi in order to offload traffic from telcos. So what we're working on right now is that you can, with basically your SIM card that you already have on your device, right? You can access Wi-Fi hotspots all around the world, and that would be something, for example, included in the data plan that you already have with your telco. This is basically mutually beneficial because you do have better connectivity. Let's say, for example, if the coverage there is not so great, but you do have a great Wi-Fi access point, we can kind of favor that the best of the two options, for example. And for the telco, it does mean, okay, let's take some of these load out of the densely overpopulated antennas that are running the show behind the scenes. So for the telcos, it means much more optimized infrastructure management. For you, it means much better connectivity, and for something that honestly you already have from your data plan. That's why Wi-Fi is a key aspect of what we're doing and why we're mapping this out, and why basically we want to flag all of the Wi-Fi access points that we have across the world. It's millions of hotspots out there, and we want to have that as a possibility to enable this use case. So it's still going to ultimately boil down to 5G, cellular, but Wi-Fi is a great complement to the whole thing.
That's very fascinating. Is this something that you have or maybe want to approach larger telecoms with, maybe to form some partnerships, with Uplink? I'm sure if there's probably NDAs there, but just curious if maybe it's.
I'm going to invoke the NDA on that one. Yeah.
No, but this is, fantastic. It's really cool what you're doing. I think that, Uplink, DeWi, I think this is something that's very essential, especially for the future of connectivity in our world. And given the fact that everything's online these days and everything happens that way, and that's how we live and interact with each other and even do business and work. I think having that in place is, definitely something that's, part of our near future. So thank you for all the work you do, and really excited to, participate myself in the Uplink network too. If there's someone that wants to participate directly, like, should they just go to the website to register? I think you mentioned that earlier. And then is there a community to participate in as well? Maybe on Telegram, Discord, something like that?
Discord mostly. I would say
Okay.
Discord is the focal point. You can check it out from the website. It's easily accessible there. So Uplink XYZ, and you'll find everything that you need there.
Andre, thank you, man. This has been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time today, and looking forward to doing this again with you in the near future.
Absolutely. And then let's go even deeper on the tech, because that's my passion,
Likewise. We'll do it for sure.
Okay. You have a good one.